Welcome y'all to this episode of the Law Dad Roy podcast here with Miss Janet from our wonderful Charleston office. We're going to have a conversation today about all things legal, all things Charleston office, and all things you. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I know you are not nervous at all to be here.
Not a bit. Not a bit.
No, well, look, this is just a conversation. We've known each other for how long?
Since you started law school in 2010.
Yeah.
So I think I met you in 2010 or 2011.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so
many
15 years.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And look where you've come.
Well, look where, we're both here. We're both in the same office. So when I first met you, you were working at the law school. Mm-hmm. And you were the, what do they call it? Circulation desk manager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so how did you come to work at the law school? Tell us tell everybody about your background. I know it, of course, but tell us a little bit about you.
Well, before I came to this law firm, Roy, I worked in higher education for something like 20 years. My husband got a job here in Charleston, and it was right after the law school opened, and I applied for a position there and fortunately was hired.
Right.
I worked at the Charleston School of Law for 10 years.
Yeah.
Then I left due to some internal things going on at the law school.
Right.
Then I worked in higher education for another couple of years, but I saw an advertisement which was so well written about working here with the, at that time it was the Anastapula Law.
Right.
I applied, got an interview, and was offered a position starting just a few days later. So I started here at the law firm in January of 2020.
When you moved to Charleston, where'd you move from?
I moved from Albany, Georgia.
Okay. And you came to Charleston, you worked at the law school for a while, and when I met you, you were the circulation desk manager, which basically meant you were the first face of the law school, because when you entered that particular law school, you basically entered at the library.
I didn't actually. I was the registrar.
You were the registrar first?
For 5 years.
Okay.
And then the ABA came in and wanted the school to hire some more people, make it a little more diverse.
Right.
So I transitioned into the circulation.
Okay, so you were registrar first and then moved to that. Okay, I was thinking it was the opposite for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you've been here for 5 years. We've been working together. 5.5 years. we've been working together, and it's been great. You're at the law school in your second position, I guess, when you were the circulation desk manager for the library. You really were the first face that everybody saw, and always cheerful and bright and.
Sometimes.
A little, sometimes a little snark, which is appreciated.
Okay, thanks.
Right, that's appreciated. It was really a good experience, that era of the law school, I felt like.
I loved that position because I really got to know students better than I did when I was the registrar.
Right.
I had more opportunities to chat with students, get to know them, see what kind of people they were.
Right.
So it was a joy, an absolute joy working for the law school.
Yeah. And now, in your current position, tell us what the day-to-day is like. What's the hustle? What's the grind?
Wow. Well, every day's a little bit different, yet in some ways the same. I recently sort of transitioned here a little bit. I am helping with phone calls to clients for folks who are no longer here, working here. I greet guests when they come in, of course. I handle the mail, I open the mail, but I really enjoy working with the attorneys and staff here. Right. You have done an amazing job hiring people who genuinely care, care about clients, want to do the right thing. And Roy, you may not know this, but I tell a lot of clients, especially older clients who can maybe relate a little bit, that at my age, I would never work for someone that I didn't respect, think was ethical, trying to do the right thing for the world and for humanity. And that's one thing that I so admire about you, and that thrilled me when you actually offered me a position to work here, because I do believe in a lot of the same things that you do and caring about.
Well, and we have as our first core value, we put our clients first, and our second, obviously we have each other's backs, but at the end of the day for us, it's all about people and it's all relational, right? And, one of the things that we really do is we do seek out people that care about other people.
Yes.
We don't always get that right off the jump, right? There, like any company, I think that there is some turnover. There's some people that don't fit, within that culture. But in general, I think we have we do have a really good team.
I believe that. We really do.
And, we prioritize that client contact. People say all the time, number one complaint with lawyers is, well, I can never talk to anybody. No one ever calls me back. And not to say that we're immune from that. We do get that complaint sometimes. Generally, frankly, it's not warranted when you actually go back and look at all the times that we have talked to that particular person. But it's a really big part. I mean, what has been kind of the most surprising thing switching from higher education to, higher education in the legal field for a very long time, basically working with law students and lawyers who were professors and all of that, to switching to the actual practical application? What has kind of surprised you the most about that?
I guess basically learning the computer system, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm usually pretty good at making relationships with whomever I'm working with, whether it's an attorney, a client, a vendor.
Right.
So that sort of comes naturally to me, I guess. I can't explain how, but I do really relate to a lot of our clients, and every one of our clients has been through something usually awful.
Right.
Whether it's a slip and fall, getting food poisoning, being in a motor vehicle collision. Everyone is suffering. Everyone is in pain. And so just being able to relate, and I can always find something in common with almost everybody that I speak with, whether it's where we've lived, what we've been through. I mean, there are just so many things. So I genuinely love my job. I like working with our clients. And it's just been a joy to work here. It really has. And I know I sound sort of corny, but that's
and you mentioned the computer system, and I think a lot of people, they think of law firm and they think leather-bound books and mahogany desks, and we're all just sitting around and smoking our pipes and discussing the finer points of where to put the Oxford comma. But that's really not what the actual practice of law is. I mean, it was a surprise for me when I came out of law school. Obviously, I had clerked at law firms, so I knew a little bit about what it was about. But our entire system really is digital. I mean, there is no real. I mean, the paper comes in and it gets put in digitally, and then the paper goes to storage basically. Yeah. And that's obviously very different from even law school library, which, until they tore it out here recently, was shelf after shelf of books, right? Right. What has that been like, by the way? We're just next door to our office here in Charleston is actually right next door to the law school library where we met and all of that, which they've now, it's gone. I mean, what I don't know if you had thought or reaction to that as you've kind of seen this unfold. I have. I mean, it's
kind of sad to me. Yeah. It was a beautiful building. I had so much joy working at the law school as well.
Right.
But it's incredible to see the destruction of that building. There's nothing left.
No.
Even the floors, they were concreting away and stuff.
I know. It's been remarkable to watch because, yes, I could see how you might want to renovate or something. But when they took that building apart, even the floor was concrete. Yeah. And they took that out.
And there's no more second floor.
No, it's just dirt and brick. Yeah. It's really been wild to watch.
And this is such an historic building, the whole length of this building.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad, but you may have seen recently on Facebook the 20-year anniversary of the first graduates.
Oh, was it? No, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or the 20th anniversary of the law school starting, and then there was a picture of the first graduates, which every graduation, I always thought, I don't remember working graduation. It's a Saturday.
Right.
But it was such a pleasure actually going to graduations.
Yeah.
And seeing people that I had known for 3 years, sometimes 4.
Right.
The way they had grown and finally achieving that goal. It was a joy to me. It really was.
Yeah. I mean, that whole period of law school, it's obviously different levels of stressful for different people. But, being there in the library where everyone's studying for exams, I mean, that, that's a hard time.
I saw students struggle, and it's funny because when a year or so later after people graduated, they looked so much more relaxed than they did when they were a student at law school. But I could see from my perspective what a tough road that is.
Yeah.
It is not
and
easy.
you were always really good there, with, you always had a little candy or a little word, with really getting people, I think, kind of back to reality, back to life. Like, yes, you have to take this exam, you have to take it seriously, but, you're also human. So here's a joke,
Well, I sort of feel motherly toward you, even to this day.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
But the students, yes, of course. And the folks that work here, I feel quite motherly toward.
Right.
Or grandmotherly in some cases. But that makes me happy. And I know that you don't really consider us family, but I do.
Well, we use the word team, right? Because we use the word team as a general construct, and we don't say family just because in a family we have to deal with, abusive Uncle Bob, but in a team we don't. We can just tell him to hit the road. But for the people that are, on the team, I mean, particularly, people like you that I've known my entire journey. I mean, when we met, I wasn't married. Of course, you met Kelsey at the law school too. But you were there, through this whole part of life, really. We've been connected. We have been. Yeah. And it's something that I treasure. Yeah. And even before you were, we were working together. I mean, we were still keeping up, on Facebook and everything. That's right. And that's how we knew, that the opportunity presented itself. That's when the law school, was really going through a transition with, the hedge fund or whatever that wanted to buy it. It's a very odd time, during that whole period. What do you do outside of work to keep yourself busy? Well, I've been doing a little gardening, flower gardening. How's that going? Okay, I planted some flower seeds, but a little bit late in the season. Okay. But they're coming up. Well, we have a long season. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Because I have to come and see your new place still. I'm still working on unpacking some boxes. Okay, so, all right. You'll let us know. The invitation is still out there. I have a dog and a cat at home. So, but I'm somewhat physically handicapped. I have arthritis, so unfortunately, I can't do a lot of the things I would like to do, such as go to flea markets and wander around. I can't stand for more than 10 minutes without being in agony. So, but I love to read fiction just to escape. Right. I think about work all the time. Yeah. You probably do as well, but I go home at night thinking about what I'm going to do the next day. When I wake up in the morning, I think about what I have to do that day, the tasks that, this has to be done, this client has to be called, and so forth. So I'm, and I tell people, Roy, I'm emotionally invested in the law firm. 100%, yeah. And I know you are. And, it's something that I say all the time, but it's actually true, is that a lot of people come to us as clients thinking they want an attorney, but what they really need is an audience. Mm. And oftentimes, particularly in a society where we don't really, in my opinion, appropriately value mental health and that sort of thing, people don't have a therapist. They don't really have, or a priest, or anyone to talk to. And that really becomes a huge part of the gap that we fill, is counseling people, not just on the law and how to get money for your claim, but life.
Absolutely.
And it's hard not to take that with you.
And of course, and you're good at this, but listening, hearing what people are concerned about, or their pain or their frustration.
Right.
Again, that's something that I can normally relate to when someone is telling me what they're going through.
Right.
So, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, it is.
And it can be frustrating. I've cried on the phone with clients before.
Yeah.
Because they're going through something so awful and being evicted maybe or something like that.
Right.
I wish I could help.
Right.
All I can do is listen.
Right. And a lot of times, there are things like you just mentioned, eviction, for example, that come out that are outside of our control. Yeah. It's not what we do. We see that a lot. We see custody disputes after somebody gets hurt and they can't take care of the family the way they could and all of that. And those things, although it's not what we're hired for, it's not what we do as a law firm, you still carry that with you. You want to help, you want to solve the problem, you want to try to get some resolution or solution, and sometimes we just can't. And that's the most frustrating part. It
is frustrating, but again, listening, empathizing, sympathizing, it goes a long way.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, and people appreciate that. One of the things that we ask people to do if they have a good experience is leave a Google review or leave a Facebook review or leave a review, because, it tells other people that don't have experience with law firms, that are maybe shopping for a law firm, about the experience they had here, right? And it helps us help other people. And you've been, phenomenal at getting really good reviews from clients, and people that you deal with. How do you go about that? Because even sometimes I struggle with making the transition from, we had this really great conversation or series of conversations. Would you mind leaving a review just to tell people, about this experience you had? How do you sort of bridge that? What's your skill or your tactic that you use?
I think I'm, as you know, Roy, I'm a pretty open person.
You are?
Yeah. I think I just, ask people if they would mind taking a couple minutes and giving me a review. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and people are willing to help. Right?
Not always.
Yeah, not always.
People are busy. Their lives get in the way. And of course, a lot of our clients who are perhaps a little bit older aren't comfortable or familiar with doing things online or on their phone. Right. Much as they might want to give a review, it's difficult for them. So I'm certainly not going to pressure anybody.
100%. No. And we obviously don't get, reviews from 100%, but I think it's helpful because, we obviously, at the end of the day, we all work for the clients.
Absolutely.
And so they, as much as we can sit down and say, well, how are things going? How's this going? It's really the client's feedback that is the most important, because that is the experience that we're trying to create.
And getting a review lifts me up.
Yeah.
It makes me want to do even better.
Right.
And, also just and I always appreciate your praise. And that, again, I think not just me, anybody, it lifts us up. It makes us want to do even better when someone in your position recognizes the effort that someone like me puts in.
Yeah, that we're all rowing in the same direction for the clients. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And, that is really what we emphasize here, and we try to reward, we try to hire, we try to fire, all based around that. And again, you don't always get it perfect. We're a imperfect team full of imperfect people. That's just the nature of the world. But we really focus on that and make an effort. And along those lines, and you intimated to this earlier, but things are always changing. We are a growing organization. We are a growing team, growing company. We are blessed that more people, every year are trusting us to represent them and help them. And with that comes some comes some, change, and it's not always great, some aspects of it. And so we got to be realistic about that. And, that's something I always appreciate about our relationship is I always know that, I can say, hey, what do you see that's not going the way that you think, it should aligning. But that's good. It's important that, as a team, we can have those open and honest communications. We said we communicate with clarity and candor, and it's important to our clients because whenever there is, dissension from the team or some sort of friction, that can sometimes spill over, and so we don't want that. And you've been really great, I think, about noticing some things that maybe aren't quite in line with the way that we want to do things. And
Roy, you're very approachable. And you're open to suggestions or complaints sometimes or feedback or whatever. Right. And that's much appreciated because, I've worked other places where someone in a position like yours doesn't have the time to listen to someone in a position like mine.
Right.
But I am excited about...
Or they don't want to have the time, most often.
Well, that could be. I'm not sure. But I'm excited to see where the law firm is going. I want to be here 20 years from now. Yeah. Let's see what happens. But as I say, I'm invested.
Yeah.
Not financially necessarily, but emotionally certainly in this law firm.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about this team is that we all are, because we understand what it's about and and who it's for, and we, like you said, we really care about people. We care about the clients. And here. In our Charleston office, we have quite a few people, but when we go for our quarterly advances, that's one of the things that I've liked, and I know you've been to some of those over the course of time, is really getting to interact with the people we don't get to interact with every day, in person at least.
Absolutely. For me, it's somewhat of a social event
right.
to see people that I don't see often and to meet people that I've never met before who work in a different office than I do.
Right.
So it's great. Team building.
Yeah, because we do a lot, via Zoom. And Zoom's great in that you get to see each other rather than just email. But it's not the same. It's not the same as in person. And so, I think part of that comes from the team as a whole that we do enjoy working together, because we seek out people that fit our core values that are like us, and that's one of the things, your position at the law firm has changed over time. You've been in multiple, seats, but at the end of the day, it's really the same in that it's all in caring about the clients and how can we best serve the clients. And, that's what I so appreciate about our team is that people are willing to make those adjustments in order to take care of the clients. What has been, the most, from your perspective, what have you kind of seen as the biggest change at the law firm that took adjustment to make? And I know there have been a lot. We talked about some of them.
I just think keeping up with some of the changes.
Yeah.
Which is good though because we're moving forward.
Right.
But sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes it felt like every 2 weeks there was something else, a new procedure, a new way to handle something. Right. But I do think that we are definitely moving in the right direction, Roy.
Yeah, and we've tried to obviously implement different, because I got the same way. I used to call it any random Tuesday. Any random Tuesday we would get, some email from, legal operations that said, okay, we're changing this process and here's the new 5-page procedure. And it was like, okay, well, that changes all these other processes. And so that was a lot. I think we've done a better job trying to take that quarterly at least. But there are changes. We're in an evolving world, and sometimes just rolling with the punches, is the best thing that we can do. And we've certainly been doing that.
I call it go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Yep.
And it's been awesome. Getting to actually work with you as opposed to just interact. And of course, in the interim, we were keeping up on Facebook and things like that. But it's been fantastic, to to really have that longevity, of relationships.
And I mean, I am proud to support you and the rest of the team here at the law firm. It makes me very proud.
Yeah. Well, you do great work. You do important work.
Thank you.
We're thankful for you.
Likewise.
And thank you for being on this episode of the podcast. I know this is, not necessarily in your repertoire. You said you never listened to a podcast.
I never have.
And now you're on one.
Wow. But, Roy, I hope you know I did this for you.
I appreciate it. And, it's not Oprah. So
no cars.
There's no
at the end of this.
That's right. We're not Oprah, but we're trying this out and trying to give people a little peek inside.
Yeah.
Because they see the outside, they see the TV ads, they see the press conferences, they see the articles, they see the results. But at its base, it's really about people, and that's what we're trying to give people that that view. So thank you for being on.
Thank you, Roy. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.